So David going through his polygamy and gaining all these wives, which was a lot of times for power, right? Having these alliances with women and their fathers and getting land and securing allegiances from people, being able to procure more children. All of these things are man's attempt to take care of their own sufficiency, right? And so it's just not according to the will of God. And David does pay for it later on. I mean, again, his own son tries to kill him. And he's got a lot of trouble from all of this that he tries to do on his own strength, right? So, verse 6 now. While there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David, Abner was making himself strong in the house of Saul. Now Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Ahiah, and Ishbosheth said to Abner, "Why have you gone into my father's concubine?" Then Abner was very angry over the words of Ishbosheth and said, "Am I a dog's head of Judah?" It's kind of an odd thing to ask. "To this day, I keep showing steadfast love to the house of Saul your father, to his brothers and to his friends, and have not given you into the hand of David. And yet you charge me today with a fault concerning a woman. God do so to Abner and more." What would be, there's some obvious advantages. What's that?
There's never an outcast that he did.
Yeah.
Ishbosheth apparently believed it, and when he spoke it, there's never a disclaimer that says any insinuation otherwise.
Yeah.
We just have to accept that it is what it is.
I mean, and it would, I mean, one of the advantages to it is now if he is in with one of the former king's concubines, there's a little bit of a power grab there. So it's very impossible that he could have. Yeah, he's the one kind of running the show behind the scenes. Yeah. And it says that Abner was making himself strong, right? So was that, David was kind of becoming strong under Saul, right? But that was the Lord making him strong, right? It says Abner was making himself strong. So maybe, like you said, this was a power grab, or maybe because he was now becoming a threat to Ishbosheth, Ishbosheth did kind of like what Potiphar's wife did and could have maybe falsely accused him to discredit him. I mean, I could see it literally for me 50-50 either way. What were you going to say, Mark? Yeah, that's what Ron was saying. Yeah, it very easily. Yeah. I mean, he clearly responds with anger, and he says, how dare you accuse me of this? And he says, because you accuse me of this, I'm now going to go see to it that David gets the throne, right? And so was he bluffing? I guess it all comes down to whether or not he really did it, right? Because, I mean, this is a pretty strong thing for him to say, now, you accuse me of this, I'm going to help David get the throne. But here's what's really interesting about it. Clearly, he knew that David should have been king all along. Because he said that, right? He says, God do to Abner and more so if I do not accomplish for David what the Lord has sworn to him to transfer the power, right? So he knew all along, even when he was setting up Ishbosheth, he knew David should have been king. Do you get that? So there's something going on there with him too. That's what I mean by dysfunction. There's a lot of weird stuff that's happening throughout this story. Yes.
Well, and I would only imagine he leaves because he really recognizes that there's no chance to get the power at this point. Basically, it does say that David was getting stronger and stronger, and Saul's getting weaker and weaker. And so as a good general, he would be seeing that there's no way to win this. And so he would recognize that his only way to cut his losses and have any influence is to go and vie for a position with
David, yeah.
But then that makes me wonder if...
Have you ever... Brent's here tonight. You can't answer too affirmatively, okay? But have you ever had somebody come to you with their problems? And the more that they start telling you their problems and their issues, you start hearing layer upon layer of dysfunction to the point that you're like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, I don't even know How far back do we have to go to get to the root of your levels of dysfunction? There are so many piles of it here that, this latest issue is a result of 14 other things that should have never happened to begin with, some of which are your fault, some of which are other people's faults that have been poured on you. And there's so much stuff going on. It's like an onion. You have to, you know what I mean? That's what you're seeing here is this is all jacked up. Ishbosheth should have never been king to begin with. Abner shouldn't have been trying to set him up. He knew David was supposed to be king. The whole thing, you're like, it's just dysfunction upon dysfunction upon dysfunction. You see what I'm saying? And so when you get through all that, it's just messed up. So, I don't know. That's where I'm at. I don't know. I think Ron is smarter than I am, and he makes an extremely valid point, but I just don't know. I don't know about that. And very well could be.
And now he's going to have a showdown with Ishbosheth, and Ishbosheth who is weaker. He's not as strong as Jonathan.
No.
But he is weaker. And he feared, it says there in verse 11, he feared Abner. And so he decided to keep his mouth shut. But it was too late. The die has been cast.
And Abner could be just arrogant enough that he goes over to help David, and then he may be thinking, I'm going to get David in his sleep one night, and I'm going to take the throne. You don't know exactly what he's thinking. But when people get arrogant, I remember we heard a guy one time at a conference, and he said, sin makes you stupid. That's true. Sin makes you stupid. It makes you think things, and it puffs you up, and you think things that you can do that you can't do. Yes? Say it again? Well, that's what I was saying. It's hard. You could see it as two different ways. He's becoming more powerful, more influential, more of a presence in the kingdom. Now, whether or not he's doing that by his own, subversive and
he's going to be the king, so he's got to keep his own position. And who's in his position now? It's
Joab.
Mm-hmm. So Abner's thinking,
he may not want to be the king.
He's grasping at straws. No, I don't think he does.
He may not
be a general in the second man.
Yeah, he may like that better.
I think another way to say it is Abner was the voice of Ishbosheth's head, and he knew if he got in trouble with Ishbosheth, he better speak louder.
Yeah.
He better press harder and make himself stronger.
Yeah.
And so that's what this is all about.
It definitely worked. It did intimidate Ishbosheth, that's for sure. All right. So verse 12. This is what you had said about Michal and getting her back. Verse 12, we'll read a couple verses here. It says, and Abner sent messengers to David on his behalf. So he told Ishbosheth, I'm going to help David, right? So he sends messengers to him. He says, to whom does the land belong? Make your covenant with me, and behold, my hand shall be with you to bring over all Israel to you. And he said, good, I will make a covenant with you, but one thing I require of you, that is, you shall not see my face until you first bring Michal. So he tells Abner, he says, that's fine if you want to come over here, but he says, don't bother coming if you don't bring her with you. He says, either bring her with you or don't come at all. Verse 17, and Abner conferred with the elders of Israel, saying, for some time past you have been seeking David as king over you. Now then, bring it to pass. For the Lord has promised David, saying, by the hand of my servant David, I will save my people Israel from the land of the hand of the Philistines, and from the hand of all their enemies. Abner also spoke to Benjamin, and then Abner went to tell David at Hebron all that Israel and the whole house of Benjamin thought good to do. When Abner came with 20 men to David at Hebron, David made a feast for Abner and the men who were with him. And Abner said to David, I will rise and go and will gather all Israel to my lord the king, that they may make a covenant with you. Out that David had opportunities to take the throne, right? He could have killed Saul on 2 different occasions. After Saul was dead, he could have capitalized on that opportunity. He's had numerous opportunities to jump in there and take the throne, but he has not done it, has he? He has waited on the Lord, and he has been patient and just allowed the Lord to do it. And when people have tried to help him, he's stopped them, hasn't he? When they said, go kill him, now he's sleeping, he said, no, don't touch him. And when the Amalekite came back and said, I killed him for you, look, here's the crown, David said, you did a bad thing, man, and he killed him, right? So David is, all throughout this, he's setting this tone of, he is not going to force himself on Israel. Israel, God's people, has to invite him and welcome him in, right? And so look at these little parallels with Jesus. It says, this is an illustration of Jesus' lordship in our lives. He is, in fact, King of kings and Lord of lords, because David was, in fact, anointed King of Israel, was he not? So he was, in fact, King of kings and Lord of lords, but he chooses, for the most part, to exercise his sovereignty of David is that sort of analogy or picture, that type of Christ. Anybody else see that, or is it just me?
Not the brother.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, 22. Now we're getting into the good stuff. All right, now I gotta get Ron to speak on this one a little bit. All right, here we go. 22. It says, just then the servants of David arrived with Joab from a raid, bringing much spoil with them. But Abner was not with David at Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he had gone away in peace. When Joab and all the army that was with him came, it was told Joab, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and he has let him go, and he has gone in peace. Then Joab went to the king and said, what have you done? Behold, Abner came to you. Why is it that you have sent him away so that he is gone? You know that Abner, the son of Ner, came to deceive you and to know your going out and your coming in and to know all that you are doing. See, Joab's suspicious of him, isn't he?
Thinks he's a spy.
He thinks that he's a spy, right?
Hates it, he killed his brother.
What's that?
He killed his
That's just the way the game is played, and he did kill his brother.
yeah,
So,
king on your side.
yeah. And he knows that if Abner comes over, now his job's on the line, right? So he does have these reasons. So I want to bring up something that the word is not mentioned in this passage. But last week, as we ended the Bible study, Ron came to me and he said, hey, I've got this interesting thing I want to send you. And he sent me this email, and it's sort of interesting to see the depth and the layers of the Bible, right? Because there are things in the Bible like this that aren't explicitly mentioned, but the principle carries through, right? So, anybody ever heard of refuge cities? Right? All right. So, refuge cities. First, let's read a couple of verses here, and then we're going to look at this. So, look at verse 26 and 27. It says, when Joab came out from David's presence, he sent messengers after, may flee there, that they shall be for you a refuge from the avenger of blood. Now, on your own time, if you want to go look up, go read Numbers chapter 35, little homework for you. That explains a little more in depth about what the cities of refuge are. Yep, Numbers chapter 35. And then in that, basically what it is, if you accidentally do something that causes the death of somebody else, and then let's say their brother or their avenger, their kinsman redeemer, they want to now come kill you to avenge their brother's blood. You had the ability to run to or flee to these certain cities that the Lord established throughout the nation of Israel. If you can make it to the city before the avenger gets to you, and they will let you in, and you may live there safe from the avenger trying to kill you until your trial and your case is heard, where then the elders of that city, who are Levites, the priests, they will determine, based on the story and the evidence given, if you are in fact,
It had similarities.
yeah,
Anyway, it was good.
yeah. And the high priest, and this thing he sent me was very fascinating, is that as long as you remained under the protection of the high priest, you were innocent, and you could not be harmed by the enemy coming to get you.
If you step down, the thickness of the wall of that city, which was usually 3 to 5 feet of stone, if you were inside that wall, you were safe. If you were outside that wall, that man who is the avenger of blood is guiltless, because he killed you, because that is their capital punishment.
Yeah.
They didn't have courts of law like we have today, that you spend time in prison or you get executed.
Yep.
The avenger of blood took care of it.
Yeah.
And they saw it as viable. That's the way it was.
So who is our high priest today?
Jesus.
This is an easy question. It's not a trick question. Who is our high priest?
Jesus.
Jesus. If we step out from under his protection, who's our enemy that's seeking to kill us? The devil. And so as long as I've used the analogy, especially with young people, that rules are good. Could you imagine driving down the road when there's no rules whatsoever? There's no lines telling you which lane to be in. There's no speed limit. There's no cops. It just turns into Mad Max, right? And so rules and guidelines and structure are there for our protection and to give us that freedom and safety within the confines of that, right? So, we all have this understanding of refuge cities now? Okay, we're in Joshua 20. Look at verse 7. So they set apart Kadesh in Galilee, in the hill country of Naphtali, and Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the hill country of Judah. So Hebron, the city that they're in, is a city of refuge. You see that? So now I got to ask some questions. I told Ron, I said, I got some thought-provoking questions.
Could I say one thing?
I would love it. Go.
Those cities there were 6 of them, 3 on the east side of Jordan, 3 on the west side of Jordan. And those cities were strategic.
Totally wild. All right. So here's, if what we can tell from this, I'm trying to look through this. Abner came to Hebron. Why did he go to Hebron? Did he go to Hebron because it was a city of refuge? Or did he go to Hebron to do what he said earlier, and that is to help David achieve the throne of Israel? Okay? So his motivation for going to this Hebron, which happened to be a city of refuge, was not to seek refuge for any murder or thing he had ever done. He was simply going there to help David. Therefore, he didn't seek out a trial. He didn't ask for a trial. He never got a trial about his murdering of Asahel, right? So no trial was ever given to him. So they never deemed him innocent or guilty. So we're going to have a trial now. If you look back, and he fell there and died where he was. And all who came to the place where Asahel fell and died stood still. So there's the account of what happened. Is Abner guilty or innocent?
Yeah.
He's innocent. Anybody think guilty?
Self-defense.
What?
Self-defense.
Self-defense, right? And man, it looks to me like he tried warning him. He's like, I'm going to kill you if you keep coming, right? Like, it looked to me like he did due diligence trying not to kill him, right? What?
Stand my ground.
Yeah, he's stand my ground. Yeah, he was a Floridian. And so, yeah.
He was running away.
Yeah, he was trying to get away, trying to escape, and he's like, stop chasing me, I'm going to kill you. All right, so since Abner never stood trial, right, so he was in this refuge city, but he wasn't there because it's a refuge city, was Joab so he was justified in trying to kill him, right? Okay, anybody else?
And Abner was in the city of refuge and he couldn't kill him.
Yeah.
But he was outside.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have done
What was Abner supposed to do? Just let Asahel chase him and kill him?
No, he was justified. He was
Yeah,
defending himself.
yeah, he was defending himself, right? Okay, yeah, what?
Yeah, Abner is absolutely the avenger of blood and therefore has every right to carry out
To try to get him, right?
what do you call it,
I think
the law of the land.
Yeah.
He had to do it.
King let him go. So,
Somebody else is his judge. He's not his judge, he's his avenger of blood.
Yeah. And it is interesting that he gets him to come out to the gate. So we had talked about that, is that he doesn't do it in the city. He gets him to come out to the gate. He sends his guys and says, go get Abner and bring facts to it that we can find in there. But let's move on from that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's nullify all that stuff because the king had done great and he knew it. And once you said you tried to talk to convince him he was wrong.
Yeah. Well,
that changed the story.
David's got a different point of view. So we're going to see. Yeah.
When you said that he sent his men in to get him, did they not just went in and drug him out unwillingly? He would come out unwillingly? I mean, we had it.
I have no idea. I mean, when you read it, it says, when Joab came from David's presence, he sent messengers after Abner, and they brought him. So they brought him back, but David did not know about it. And when Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside. So it could have been forceful. Could have been like mafia style. I don't know. Very possible. Take him outside of the city and then do the business out there.
What verse is it?
That was verse 26 and 27 of chapter 3. So we kind of played with this a little bit just to see, like, is he justified? Was Abner justified? It's like I said, it's kind of a tooth for tooth, Wild West kind of. So David, I honestly, have you guys got any insight on this? David, whether it's city of refuge or not, justified or not, David clearly was not happy with Joab for this. Like, he was clearly ticked that he handed down that kind of a curse to him. And he says, nobody in your family, forever now, someone's going to be sick, have a discharge, have leprosy, be broken poor. Someone's going to die early from something because of what you did. I mean, that's a harsh, So what do you think about that? I mean, David, he would have known that Hebron was a city of refuge too, and he would have known all these laws that we're talking about and that people are justified. Why was he so ticked at Joab?
But if you notice, he didn't kill Joab. So he knew Joab had the law on his side.
Yep.
But he wasn't happy about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll add that David regularly moved beyond the law into kind of new covenant. Several times he did things that later on Jesus was like, see what he did? That's
I like
proof
that.
what we need to do is what we need to do now. And so he kind of recognized that it was unjust, even though the law allowed for him to avenge his brother. He recognized that in the grand scheme of things, that was not the just thing to do.
Yeah.
I like that.
Talked him to come out to the gate, at the well, and then he just pulls him out. Didn't know he was going to do it. He still had Samson right there. Didn't even put his armor on his neck, like the game.
Well,
Yeah, that's why he wish he had that.
Yeah, he may make a few messes, but he's good. Is anybody familiar with Proverbs chapter 14, verse 4? I'll paraphrase it. You can go look at it on your own. Proverbs 14:4 basically says that when there are no oxen in the stall, the barn is clean. But it's through the work of the oxen that much prosperity comes. What that's saying is, oxen poop and make a mess, but they're valuable to have around. Does that make sense? Joab's a good ox. He makes a mess. There's blood everywhere because of this guy. But he's good at what he does. I'm the king. I'm pretty safe when I got Joab around because he's good at making messes, right? He's like Liam Neeson. He just blows things up and he makes a mess of everything, but he gets the job done, right? And I've thought about this and I said, oftentimes I brought up at the church last week at the prayer that we are blessed beyond measure with the team that we've got here. I mean, we just are. We've got good people that work, or I'm surrounded by good people on our staff and our leadership with him. Tear your clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn before Abner. Imagine being Joab and being commanded to mourn for the guy that you just murdered, right? So he says, put on sackcloth and mourn for Abner. And King David followed the bier. They buried Abner at Hebron, and the king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abner. And all the people wept, and the king lamented for Abner, saying, should Abner die as a fool dies? Your hands were not bound, your feet were not fettered. As one falls before the wicked, you have fallen." And all the people wept again over him. Then all the people came to persuade David to eat bread while it was yet day. But David swore, saying, "God, do so to me, and more also, if I taste bread or anything till the sun goes down." And all the people took notice of it, and it pleased them, as everything that the king did pleased all the people. So all the people and all Israel understood that day that it had not been the king's will to put to death Abner the son of Ner. And the king said to his servants, "Do you not know that a prince and a great man has..."
53 years ago, I was the most intelligent man on the planet for a day at least.
Amen. Amen. That is smart. Good man. All you young people, take note of how Ron's acting right now.
Take notes.
The only thing that I would say here is I think that it's pretty amazing how David led the people. He truly led. And he led not self-serving. He led the people in a way that a leader should do, not seeking his own will and his own comfort, his own growth and blessing. He legitimately mourned after Abner, who was the commander of the man who was trying to kill him. I mean, earlier on we read where while Saul was sleeping and they stole the spear and the jug of water, he called Abner out and said, "Hey, you're doing a pretty bad job of protecting your king." Remember?
Yeah.
But he still said, this shouldn't have happened. This was an unjust crime.
In order amount of respect to Mephibosheth and the man who was his caregiver on the east side of Jordan, where he had been sent when he had fallen as a child, dropped, and became crippled, he brought him back, Maker,
Yep.
in Lodabar, and he brought him back, and he didn't know, Mephibosheth did not know if he would die.
Yeah.
But they thought, "What is he bringing me there to kill me?" And Maker, who was a friend of the house of Saul, who was from the tribe of Benjamin, but who lived on that side, he came, and so Mephibosheth came, and David set him in his house and said, "Eat with my
Yeah,
son
eat with me. Yeah.
the rest of your life."
That's amazing.
I think I can do this. I will not keep us. I'm just going to blow through chapter 4, because it's only 12 verses. We either got to do it this week or next week, y'all. I'm sorry. I can't fill a whole hour with 12 verses. I'm not that good, okay? And you guys talk a lot, but not enough. So let's just blow through it right now, okay? All right, here we go. Verse 1. When Ishbosheth, Saul's son, heard that Abner had died at Hebron, his courage failed, and all Israel was dismayed. I'm not going to say anything there. Saul's son had two men who were captains of the raiding bands. The name of one was Bone the Beerothite. Rechab and Baanah set out, and about the heat of the day they came to the house of Ishbosheth as he was taking a noonday rest. And they came into the midst of the house as if to get wheat, and they stabbed him in the stomach. And Rechab and Baanah, his brothers, escaped. When they came to the house, as he lay on his bed in his bedroom, they struck him, put him to death, and beheaded them. They took his head and went by the way of the Arabah all night. So again, this is dysfunction on dysfunction on dysfunction. These are relatives killing other people. Why did they kill Ishbosheth?
Probably,
What?
probably they couldn't take over the throne. They're thinking politically,
Probably.
but it was still unrighteous.
Well, it said that Abner fled, went over to David's side. Ishbosheth lost all hope. He's like, everything's worthless, meaningless. He became emo, and he started just fearing everything, and he thought life is worthless. And so everybody's now going, this isn't working, right? This isn't good. These two guys, they kill him and behead him at your hand and destroy you from the earth. And David commanded his young men, and they killed them, and cut off their hands and feet and hanged them beside the pool at Hebron. But they took the head of Ishbosheth and buried it in the tomb of Abner at Hebron. So you see, this is like just all this weird. People trying to kill each other, gain power, power grab, stabbing people in the back, all this just betrayal, all this stuff going on. And David's trying to rise above it. His men are killing people supposedly for him. And he's like, I don't want this. I want to get the crown the way the Lord wants me to have the crown. Stop it. Yeah.
You know, he probably had a good memory of Ishbosheth somehow because, you know, Jonathan was his brother-in-law and he loved him. And Ishbosheth was probably Jonathan's little brother.
Yeah.
He probably knew him and, you know, kind of liked him as a kid or something. And then he's thinking,
He was
Ishbosheth
righteous.
did not deserve that.
Yeah.
He killed him his bid like that.
Yeah.
And he was unhappy.
Were they cousins?
The
The crippled,
Mephibosheth.
Mephibosheth, and then the one that went in and got stabbed wasn't that his brother or his cousin or something?
Oh, they were related somehow, yes. Because Mephibosheth was Jonathan's son.
His uncle?
Ishbosheth was Jonathan's brother. Yeah, so, yeah, it would have been his nephew, I suppose.
Yeah,
David's brother.
Yeah. It was David's brother-in-law through the
Which was weird, 'cause
McCall.
They called him after him, obviously.
Yeah.
In some way, because they both ended in death, you know?
Yeah. I mean, again, look at this. It's all family in some way or another. It's all this dysfunction and all these weird things that are happening. But we will see next week, chapter 5, David gets anointed king over Israel. So he does rise above all of that. Now, there's still issues, things that happen, but we'll get into that next week. Thank you, guys. We went a little long. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for your word and how you speak to us.